I never was a guy that spoke. I never did this kind of thing. I was a football player that owned a gym. It's not what I was going to be doing for my life. And now we just signed 6-year contracts with Amazon to do 6 different trainings like this. And it's crazy. You sit back and go, wow, it was so difficult in the beginning. I hated having to tell people about my life, hated having to think about how to organize ideas, and I hated it. But then you get to the point of doing it enough, you go, oh, okay, this is more fun. I like this. This is enjoyable because you start getting feedback. You get knocked down. It's like watching the football film. You get better, you get better, you get better. And what I realized was at the end of the day, all of it happened again through experiences. And so if I'm leaning in and I'm telling you what to do, I'm going to say, you need to step back and go, what are the actions, habits, and responses you must have? And then where will you apply those to experience your life in a way that forces you to rewire? To where at some point later on, that thing that you hated doing, you go, oh yeah, no, that's who I am now. The first step of dark work, this is where you take notes if you want to. First step is you got to go dark. We live in this world that is, man, it's very, very big on having everybody see what you do. Social media, take a picture, post it all, do that kind of craziness, which is cool. That's great and all. But there are very few people that are able to be masters at the craft that are also spending the majority of their time on Instagram, posting pictures, doing reels and all that kind of stuff. You've got to, at some points, tuck away from the limelight and the light and get great at what you do. You have to pull away, and most people don't. And the reason they don't, in my opinion, is they don't get to the point of being fed up with their situation. Fed up. Like, it's hard to say because you don't have to get that dark, negative, angry energy, but you got to look at your life and go, you know what? It's not good enough for me. Not that you aren't good enough, but the life you're living just isn't good enough to continue on the way it is. And if you accept that about yourself, you can own that. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. When I used to play professional football, I was one of the best in the world. But every single day, we would sit down and we watched the film from practice and from games. And every single day they'd go, you messed that up, too slow here. You missed this block. You missed this tackle. Hey, Trucks, what are you doing, man? What's going on? And it's a natural part of being critical and watching yourself so you can improve. And if I didn't get to the point of being fed up with being a lowly player, I would never push myself to be better. And in the pushing to be better, all you're essentially doing is going, I want to be the best I can. Where can I find the areas to improve? And so being fed up is also going, I'm fed up with doing the same play over and over again. It's time to do a different play, time to play differently. When you do that, you give yourself the ability to, what I say is, commit to the dark. This is also the same thing of going dark. Because if you are going to go dark, you have to first say, okay, I want more. Then you have to commit to it. Now, the commitment's different. Most people go, oh, I commit to doing this thing. I'm gonna eat great starting tomorrow for an entire week. And then all of a sudden tomorrow they're sitting with a candy bar. Someone goes, but what are you doing? The candy bar looked good, right? That's not a commitment. The commitment's got to be a soul commitment. It's got to be the depths of who you are, where you actually commit to the deeper sense of yourself. Here's what I did when I was 15. I didn't tell you. There's a moment of time when I came home after those girls had said that thing, and I looked myself dead in my pupils in a mirror, and I said, Anthony, you're going to be great. And I said it again and again and again. And I said it directly to my own eyes because I wanted me to know. I wanted me to see, me to feel, me to understand the commitment I made to me, because I wanted to not let me down. That commitment was at a depth to where, like, I literally every day would do 500 reps for 7 months. You can't imagine the amount of days that you probably can, that I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it, but I remember that moment. I committed to myself. So like, I got to get it done. I would lean back in and do it. And that dark work gave me a mentality of, no, there's no way that if I'm out here and I spend all those nights fighting myself to catch that football, that I'm not going to catch this football in this game. There's no way. That mentality has to settle in. So because of the commitment, I could shine later on. So it's got to be a commitment. And then what you have to do is actually go dark. Now, going dark, in my opinion, is giving yourself permission to step away from the pressures of the norms of society. The norms of society are share everything, do everything in the open, track all your process and progress, which I believe has a place. There's actually something in our brains that we don't realize slows us down when we are always in the light. And here's what it is. Something called a mirror neuron system. If you right now were to scroll on Instagram and you saw someone with a cut on their forehead because they were boxing, right? You would go, ooh, your brain would register. You could actually borderline feel that cut. because you've had a cut. You know what it feels like. If you watch somebody stub their toe, you go, ooh, like, because you can mirror that, right? That also carries over to another place. If I'm sitting in a room by myself, just working, I can be incredibly productive, dialed, and focused, right? If you have no distractions. They found in a study that if they simply put somebody else into the room, that production decreases immensely, focus decreases immensely. And the person didn't talk to them. They were just in a room with somebody that wasn't even interacting with them. Why is that? What they found was our brain kicks over to go, am I tapping the pen too much? Am I making too much noise? Do I smell it? Your brain is trying to mirror how they might be sensing you, how they might be receiving you. So now where I could have been focused here, part of the focus pulls away a little bit. So I'm not dialed in. It's because even if I'm working right now and I go, I'm doing something, let me get the camera out to film myself working, your brain is now still thinking about the people watching you later from the video. So the thing is, going dark is committing to pulling away from the limelight and all the people watch you and going, I'm just going to work on this right now in the dark. No one's going to see it. No one's going to give me a high five. I'm going to get what I call is no sugar. When I was in college, my coach, the lineman coach, had all the offensive linemen wear a shirt and it said no sugar. I was like, what does no sugar mean? They go, when it comes to the game, when the running back gets the ball and he runs, he gets the accolades. I don't need them. I just have to know I did the work and I'm proud for me. I don't get no sugar on them. They didn't give me some MVP for yards. I don't get any sugar. And so as a human, I go, oh, I like that. If I don't need sugar from the world, I can get it from myself. I got to find a way to develop it. What it means is doing the work in the dark by myself, committing to not caring what people see or say about me right now. Now, when I talk about dark work, you can do it in a couple of ways. One, you can disappear from the world for months on end. People do this. Hey, everybody, taking a break from social media, I'm out, right? And they'll disappear, they'll take off, and you'll see them pop back up. And half the time we go, I don't care. I didn't even notice you were going to leave in the first. I didn't need that, right? So you can disappear and say nothing, or you do it periodically throughout a week or a day. Like, dark work doesn't have to be something that at the end of the day is like, I went away the whole day. It could be like, hey, these 2 or 3 hours a day, I'm going dark. Everything's off. I'm right here, right now. I'm not documenting. I'm not sharing. I'm not going to put an Instagram post out. The only person that knows I'm doing this right now is me. I have done hours, hundreds of hours of dark work on this that I'm talking about and understanding things for coaching stuff we're going to do with it. But that's just, no one's going to know about it. But that's the beauty of it, because I don't need the sugar, and neither should you when it comes to it. And if I think back, and if you think back, there was 100% of time in your life when you built something, created something, did something that no one will ever know about the true depths of work you did for it. It's just inevitable that you've done that. We just didn't do it with the intention to create something great or to be a different person, a higher level. Because here's the interesting thing about dark work. It's not just going into a window of time to achieve something. It's going into a window of time to become something. There's this great statement I love, and it says, and it was like a video I think somebody said, and he says, the first $1 million is difficult. The next million is inevitable. Because it's not about what you did. It's about who you are as a character, personality, drive, discipline. It's who you become along the process to making the million, to where now it's just who you are to do those things. So you have become the person that does the things that naturally keep making the things come back to you that creates the second million, we'll call it. It's the same thing. The first achievement is difficult. The next ones like that are inevitable. Dark work is where you build that up. It's the habits, it's the ideas, it's the actions, it's the rewiring. Because here's the part about the brain and how it works. We've all, at this moment in time, if I ask you, what are your habits, what are your actions, how do you respond to things? We all have ways we do it. If every one of us was given the same problem of a situation, all of us would operate differently in doing it, simply because of how we are wired. Our brain, literally the neuroplasticity over time, has wired itself differently for each of us to where we see things different. And so when we want something at a higher level, we have to go, well, how do I get it? We go, oh, a couple habits, change some things. No, we got to rewire some things. And that only happens through experiences. Our entire life is a collection of experiences. Every single one of us, we've done things over time that is created through experience, a way I see, I react, I habitually do things. And so if I want that next level, I have to start building into the stages to get it done, the actions that are call it the steps of achievement, but then also that rewiring takes place through experience, to where the first time it's hard. Now it's inevitable. I'm wired differently. And that's got to be the goal of what you're leading into. Then what we do is we lean in and we do, which is part two, you do the dark work. If I'm talking about why it's important, we got to do it. And so here's how we think through doing this actual thing of dark work, what I call a dark work experience for yourself. The first thing is understanding what's tied to the dark work. It's really building what I believe is actions, habits, responses. So that allows us to rewire our actions, habits, responses. I think for me, like, and you too, if you were to take 18-year-old you and drop you into your life right now and the things you got going on, 18-year-old you would go crazy within about a matter of hours. I know mine would. He'd be like, bro, how do you make these calls? You got kids, you're taking kids to school and you're coming back and talking to people and you got to do these things. Great. What? Right? He'd freak out. And I go, well, how did I get here? All it was a collection of experiences that either happened on demand or when crap hit the fan. Life went crazy. I had to go through an experience. I learned some way to navigate it. Okay, great. Or I did it on demand. I chose to lean into something and learn. Most of us, unfortunately, it's like when crap hits the fan. We live life in comfort, crap hits the fan. So for me, I go, well, if I'm going to really level up, I want to specifically and tactically architect and then execute an experience the way that I believe I want it to be so I can create that outcome, right? So you got to think, what are my actions, my habits, my responses that I have right now? And if I want to rewire, how do I want to rewire myself to shine the way I want to shine? And here's what I'm going to tell you. Those things that show up for you, you are not going to want to do them. Transparent, honest part, you are not going to want to do it. Whatever it looks like, I'm promising you, you're going to look at it and go, I don't want to do that. No, I don't feel like doing it. I don't want to get up early. I don't want to eat that. I don't want to say that. I don't want to call that person. I don't want to do none of that. None of it. 100%. Because every time that I've stepped into something, I've realized that it's always been the beginning of it's always been something where I go, I don't do this. Like with speaking, for example, I never was a guy that spoke. I never did this kind of thing. I was a football player that owned a gym. This was not you know what I'm saying? This is not what I was going to be doing for my life. And now we just signed 6-year contracts with Amazon to do 6 different trainings like this. And it's crazy. You sit back and go, wow, it was so difficult in the beginning. I hated having to tell people about my life, hated having to think about how to organize ideas, and I hated it. But then you get to the point of doing it enough, you go, oh, okay, this is more fun. I like this. This is enjoyable because you start getting feedback. You get knocked down. It's like watching the football film. You get better, you get better, you get better. And what I realized was at the end of the day, all of it happened again through experiences. And so if I'm leaning in and I'm telling you what to do, I'm going to say, you need to step back and go, what are the actions, habits, and responses you must have? And then where will you apply those to experience your life in a way that forces you to rewire? To where at some point later on, that thing that you hated doing, you go, oh yeah, no, that's who I am now. I didn't like talking before. Now I'm like, no, I'm a keynote speaker. I'm an international keynote speaker. It's what I do for a living. A whole different mentality. Now that's for me though. Everybody out here has something from very specific to yourself. It's all on your own. And when you lean into having this idea of go, what is this thing that I want to do? It's all tied into what experience do you want to create for yourself? And that experience could be a morning routine, an evening routine, a simple habit you want to pick up of learning a new hobby, a way you communicate, a new course you take to learn something, some new venture you want to pick up and step into. All of it is creating a pocket, a container for you to experience something. And when you step into that, it creates this new way that your brain literally functions. In fact, here's what people found is that stress is actually tied to coding of your brain in a way that releases certain proteins that are unraveling more of your DNA. There's actually studies that show this to where stressors, now, obviously there can be great amount of stress that leads to PTSD and different things, but experiences are so amazing because what they do is when you have an experience, it creates a certain level of stress, a little bit of stress sometimes. And what happens, your brain then is triggered to start encoding more proteins for your brain to release more that allows you to operate different, think different, but it also is creating this new unraveling of dormant DNA. Really interesting part of how the body works. And so what happens is by doing these things of experience that are difficult, you become more of who you dormantly are. That's why they say you could be the best person, the best version, the best potential. There's actually genetic potential hidden in all of us. And they also found that the brains of 80-year-old people have some of the same growth brain cells that kids have. So we don't have this thing where as we get older, the brain goes, it doesn't work the same way. Like there can be things for age, but for a lot of us, we can still learn. The brain's still plastic. We can still do stuff. And so the idea is leaning in. And the more you lean in, the more it wires you to experience fear differently, experience lack of belief differently, to experience confidence differently, to experience joy differently. And so you're actually embracing these things because you've experienced them so many times, because you keep subjecting yourself to this nuance you weren't used to doing, that you didn't like doing. And here's what magically happens, in my opinion. You actually build up something that I call dark energy. If you think about something you've done for a long period of time, let's say somebody is, man, I'm a guy that said, I played football, did it for a long time. Maybe somebody goes, I've baked for a long period of time. Maybe, hey, I've driven cars for a long period of time. Imagine if you did that and somebody walked up to you and go, you don't know anything about that. The dark part of you would go, what did you just say? Well, hold on, bring that back real quick. Like, say what you said to me one more time, right? And what happens is we actually find we get a little angry for we get a little mad for a second, like, hey, do you know who you're talking to? Like, you know how long I did that? That's what comes out of us. That is dark energy, and that's a positive thing. That dark energy is what allows Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan in the middle of a game to give me the ball. I've done too many reps behind the scene. Give me the ball I wanted. There was a game this last NBA season where Steph Curry, it's like game 4 of the finals, and they've been down the entire game. They got a chance to go up if he can hit a couple free throws. And he gets to the line, and my wife and I are watching. My wife notices he's just smiling. He's just smiling. She goes, how is he smiling in this moment right now? Like, there's a couple seconds left. They're down. Like, how is he like so like free? And I go, he did the dark work. She goes, what do you mean? I go, where a lot of us think about the dark work we've done and applied to that situation. I haven't shot any shots. I haven't dribbled a basketball. I don't know the play. You put me to the line, I'm gonna crap down my leg, probably like, too much stress, right? But this guy goes, oh, no. I've done too much dark work. You picked the wrong person to put on this line. It's a different sense of it, a darker energy. When you have that dark energy, whatever you desire at the back end, it's an inevitability you accomplish it, achieve it. But it only comes from that experience that rewired you to have that thought in the first place. That's a rewiring at some point that goes, no, that's who I am now. You ain't taking that from me. I've done way too much for you to rob me of my shine right now. So you have to lean in and understand that experience creates the dark energy that allows you to do. The third step is you emerge. I think emergence for me it's the fun thing. It's the fun part of it all. Because if I look at the moments where like you see a player, that the tunnel and the smoke before a game, a hockey game or a football game or like a basketball game, and they go, coming to the line from Antioch, California, hailing out is Anthony, and I just, you come out, right? There's this, you get to run of that tunnel. It's like this culmination of energy. When we played at Oregon, we had this tunnel and this Harley would start up. When the Harley started, he started up, we'd run out. The whole stadium lights up. It's loud as can be. Your heart's beating out of your chest like there's just so much, because I'm emerging into the light. I'm letting the world come now see. I get to go and show you what I've done. I'm going to give to you an example of greatness because of the work I did in the dark. I've been practicing. I've been lifting. I've been playing. Hey, let me loose. And that is something that is a different way of approaching the world, because a lot of us, we have this imposter syndrome or fear of failure. What if it goes wrong? And I get that. It's a natural part of it. But the truth is, when I look at that, I go, if you feel like you're not prepared or not good enough and you feel like an imposter, you have not done enough dark work. That's it. Because I've never known an athlete to do all that work to come to game day and go, I don't want to go out there, coach. What if they boo me? No, it's like, hey, let me loose. I may make a mistake, but I've done too much. Let me loose out there, coach. And that mentality is developed through experiences day in and day out. So how do you emerge? For me, I think about it as this aspect where you should create the moment you desire, where you get to go and put your skills on display. And when you put them on display, be unbothered by perfection or lack of perfection. Be unbothered by it, because you're going to do something and realize it wasn't perfect, because none of us are perfect, but it doesn't mean you're not great. Like when I go and, like, for example, guys get drafted first round, they get paid a lot of money. They know they're great. They're going to go out to the first couple practices and make some mistakes. Do you think they stop practicing? No, they emerge. They figure out, I'm going to do all I got, but I'm going to be okay not being perfect. I'm going to lean back in, but I'm going to show everything I got. And then what happens is you actually have, over time of doing the repetitions, you get a small taste. And the more of a small taste you get, the better you get. And here's what the most important part of it is when it comes to us emerging is once you emerge, you compete with conviction. I'm going to say this again. When you emerge and you have that dark energy, you compete with conviction. I got a 13-year-old son, and I love this guy. He's a football player, and he has a different mentality than I do, because at his age, I'd gone through a lot. And so for him, he doesn't have that same sense of grit and grind just from the world whooping him a little bit. And so what I noticed, he's got a different sense of ownership and a different sense of competing. When he competes, he doesn't compete like me because there's not a conviction behind it. And it's not a bad thing. It can be developed and built, and it will be in this offseason. That'll be taken care of. That's what dad does. But I do it for a sense of not forcing him to do anything more than show up and do the dark work with me. Because when we compete in our lives, and we compete every day, you compete for the parking spot, you compete for the birds in the meeting, you compete for the guy or for the girl, the job, you compete for a sense of confidence. There's a lot of things. And if we don't compete with conviction, we lose. And that's a really hard pill to swallow. And the competition for a lot of people becomes scary. People don't like to be in confrontation or to be challenged in certain aspects. And I've realized that a lot of us get to that point because we haven't built up the dark energy. But when you do, when you show up and you have this conviction in your heart, when you compete, you are competing to win, not because you want them to lose, because you don't want you to lose out on everything that you have built. All the deposits you've made every day in the dark, that this is what you deserve. The best competitors in the world compete beyond the reps. They compete with heart and different levels of conviction to it. And when you have done the work in the dark, you will compete in your life with conviction. And think about what that does for a life. That does make you more money. That does create way better relationships in life. When I'm competing for my marriage because I know I deserve it, there's no self-sabotage. Like some people, they know they're funky people and didn't do great things, so they self-sabotage even the relationship sometimes, or the career sometimes. Or think about the people. Think about this. The ones who win the lottery. You ever notice that those who win the lottery go broke within a couple of years? They lose all the money. Why is that? Because for them, when they're out there competing to keep this money, there's no conviction. They didn't do the work to earn it. They don't even identify as a human that should have that. So they find a way to get to a level of comfort in the bank account that mirrors the comfort in their psychology. And so what you don't even notice is it's really a bottom line, very clear picture of it is they don't compete to keep it. But if you have a person that has worked their butt off to make $100 million, do you think they're competing for it? Oh man, they're fighting, clamoring tooth and nail. They're screwing people over to keep it. They are competing with conviction because they know what it took to earn it. So the idea is, how can you look at what you are doing in your life right now to compete with conviction because you've done the dark work to develop the dark energy to shine the way that you desire to shine? And again, I don't know what that thing is. No clue. But if you really want to create that level of your life where you look back and you go, man, this is an amazing life, it's me based on that. And what it looks like is you must embrace the dark at first. Embrace the mentality of, I'm going to pull away and do things differently than other people do, because most people are not okay with doing dark work. They want the whole world to see them and celebrate them. They only do work if they're getting celebrated by the rest of the world. Be okay embracing the dark. Then go dark. Shut it off. Disappear a little bit. Be okay getting no sugar. Just being you, giving yourself the same drive that you need, and it doesn't come from anywhere else. And then from that, choose to emerge. Don't be a perfectionist that sits behind the scenes and goes, it's not ready yet, it's not ready yet. No, put it on display. And when you put on display, do it with the mentality of, I'm going to compete for what it is I want in my life most, with conviction in my soul, because I did not do all that work in the dark to not get what is mine in the light. And when you do it, the game of your life changes. And for me, like when I go back through all my life, I realize that there's these things where, for me, I'm a guy that has a lot of experiences I've loved to share and shown to the world. But for me to even be here, it's only because of the dark work I did. And if you want to in some way become a person that is asked to come speak like this, you want to become a person that people look up to in some manner. I'm not saying you haven't done things yet, but that next level, man, it'll light your soul up if you just lean into it, and you'll get to come and become something amazing. And for me, my ability to be this guy now is all because of the work I did that sucked. So I give that gift to you. Go do work that sucks. Go do things you don't enjoy doing, because when you do, the life of what you live will be done in a different way. And you'll see that, you'll look back and go, man, I'm glad that I did these things I hated, because at this point in my life, I compete with conviction for what I want most. And that's it. I appreciate you guys letting me come and share my heart and my thoughts on the topic and subject. Mike, I appreciate you too.
So inspiring. My new favorite line is no sugar. I love that.
No sugar, baby.